Hello and welcome back to another episode of Power Rangers Lore. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 best Power Ranger couples out there to date. It is Valentine's Day, everybody, so you know what that means. Special Power Rangers couple episode right here. Top 5 best Power Ranger couples of all time, of what we currently have coming out. And there is a lot of different couples going on there. And some of them aren't always with the Red Ranger, but usually the Red Ranger is always hooking up with somebody. And it's always some of the best romances we have to date. Now, some of these romances are just quick little things here and there, but other ones are like long-lasting relationships that have continued on for like years now. Other ones, well, they ended really poorly. However, they're able to bounce back and continue on looking for that next love in their life. Now, stipulations for this top 5. No couples cannot be dating other non-Rangers, and no villain dating. So I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, Astronema. Sorry about that, Lord Zed. Sorry about that, Camille. You're just not Ranger enough material. I'm sorry. Now, okay. Starting at number 5. Number 5. Tyler Navarro and Shelby Watkins. Now, this is from Power Rangers Dino Charge from the year 2015, and some of the best couples I've kind of seen. They were both met by accident during a monster attack in this beginning of the series. She was obsessed with dinosaurs and snuck on to a private dig site to, well, find a dinosaur of her own, and he was obsessed with finding his dad. So they encounter when a frost monster attacks and starts, freezing things up, looking for the legendary Dino Gems. Arguably, they had no idea what they were looking for because they didn't find any dinosaurs, nor did he find his father. But they did find the Dino Gems by accident and quickly became Power Rangers. Now, we saw quickly on that Shelby fell kind of like head over heels for Tyler pretty early on, supporting him anything he needed. When he was worrying about his father, she was right there and willing to do anything at all to be close to him. Especially when she claimed that she didn't like princesses and the like, hated that royalty and stuff like that, but then quickly changed her mind when she realized that he was going to disguise himself as a prince, and then that needed a princess. So she quickly jumped all over that chance to be right there next to him, all dressed up in full regalia. However, early on in the series, Tyler didn't seem to really notice her too much, at least in the love interest. It wouldn't be till later on that, he starts returning those feelings and tries to even impress her on several different occasions. Thankfully, he didn't have to win over too hard for her because, she was still head over heels in love with him, and eventually they would get together in the end. And you know what? That's a good whole story there. They met by accident. There was nothing forced. It was slowly building up as time went on. There's always that attraction early on by somebody else, but he did notice her. There wasn't any other girls I don't remember any other girls besides maybe a monster trying to make them fall in love. That's basically it. Thank you guys for that first one. Let's go to number 4. Dylan and Summer Lansdowne. Now, I love RPM. It's my favorite series, and the love interest between these two is fantastic. If you've not watched RPM, it's great to go on there and just watch. People will go, oh, it's a Disney one, whatever. You guys don't pay attention half the time. My least favorite is Megaforce, and that wasn't Disney, so be quiet, you guys. We're here to talk about couples. So, Dylan and Summer Lansdowne. Well, Dylan, described as the, rebel bad boy who's always constantly brooding because he has a dark past and he just can't remember it, but he has to unlock it. Also, he's part cyborg and turning evil slowly because of that cyborg mentality to be controlled by Venjek Supervirus. Well, he can be saved by none other than Summer, or at least from the opinions of Dr. K. That's what she looks and sees the two and goes like, you could choose that or you could choose somebody else. It all depends. Well, Summer is a very complicated character, as I went over a full video about her and Dylan, but Summer basically came back from a rich background. She kind of was conceited, didn't care too much about people at all, until she realized that all the people that she thought were her friends turned out to be backstabbing little liars who had left her for dead in the desert, and instead of saving themselves. She lost the closest person she realized that was to her. It wasn't her family, it was her butler who basically raised her. And after that came to basically look at people a lot differently, seeing the best sides of them even when they were trying to hide it. That's when Dylan comes along, and he was probably the most closed off person that she had probably ever met, seeing his capabilities as a ranger from the very start and pointing out that he'd be the perfect Black Ranger, and even convinces him to stay as such, even to the point of basically pulling him out of prison to show him that there's more to this world than just going fight after fight and not connecting with anybody. Now, the two would have a long back and forth of showing attention for one another. However, after making him realizing that she was someone that he cared about and he couldn't protest against basically opening up anymore, the two kind of almost shared a kiss, which was constantly ruined by either Ziggy or Gem and Gemma on several different occasions. Fantastic there, and would go on to help rebuild the world from its ashes together after defeating the Venjek supervirus. Now that's just a short little summary of their love, but it was fantastic the entire time, and nothing shoved or pushed on. There would be this endless struggle of love and caring, nightmares of him turning into a monster and basically almost hurting her. So he would always put off by that and trying to run away from the situation, going, if I can't hurt anybody if no one's near me. But in the end, they realized that was the wrong thing to do and pushed past that and had kind of the best relationship there. But it's still only number 4. Here's number 3. Andros and Ashley. Now, in Power Rangers in Space, the first thing when you're going off to space is not, I'm going to find my boyfriend here. Now, there was supposed to be, I'm going to find Zordon and fight the forces of darkness, but, things, they're never in straight lines. So, Ashley sees this tall, dark, and red ranger and falls madly in love with him. Now, I would say madly, but at first it starts out, she clearly likes him, but as time goes on, it turns into, a hot romance. Now, they're quite opposite, though. She is a social butterfly, getting used to traveling in space, being mostly on Earth most of the time. She flirted with several different people on Earth. One of those was Carlos, a teammate at the time, but she quickly realized that maybe he wasn't for her. Now, then she meets this brooding, loner stranger, getting used to Earth customs, and goes, you know what, I can teach you how to do this stuff. But over time, slowly helps him out of his comfort zone and into Earth society, having to explain a lot to him because, well, there's just a lot. He wasn't basic shaking of hands, how to eat certain foods, figuring out who these thieves were. He was basically, I wouldn't say a social pariah, but he was kind of just completely awkward in all these situations of dealing with people. Now, why was that? He had lost his entire planet. He had lost his sister, and he lost his best friend in a battle against the forces of darkness. Now, so you start to close people off and go, if I don't let them in, they can't get hurt, and I can't get hurt. However, as time goes on, he quickly realizes that he has an attraction towards her, and even starts to gain the confidence, even getting jealous when Zane does return and starts to kind of flirt with Ashley, but he goes, it's just a friendship thing. I'm not really interested because I know you're interested in Andros. He doesn't take too well, even says, stay out of the fight, Zane, but he quickly goes in the fight and helps him anyway, going, I don't care what you think. I'm not here to basically steal her from you. I'm your best friend. Now, as time goes on, eventually the two would get together. Even he would gain the confidence to ask her on a date, and after finally saving the universe, the two would have to say goodbye. But instead of going off to meet his planet and his people and his sister, he decides to stay with his team and the girl who warmed his cold, cold heart in the depths of space like a sun. Sorry, I had to throw that Shakespearean moment because, it's a good whole story of this man who's dealt with all this stuff opening up just like Dylan did. So, kind of little similarities right there, but a little bit of different backstories. Thank you guys. we're going to go on to number 2. Tommy, Oliver, and Kimberly and Hot. Now, many people said this is the best power couple, and I will explain why they aren't. But first, we will talk about why they are number 2, though. So, this is the first main love interest that we all had when we got into Power Rangers. Kimberly and Hart. She was the apple of our eyes, the greatest heartthrob we had, our first big celebrity crush as kids back there, because she was smart, funny, and, well, beautiful. Now, she didn't play always this smart character, but they had her as a dumb blonde, but eventually she grew up and became this really smart, active person who cared about everything, seeing the good in everybody. Now, this is when Tommy walks in, and at first she sees a really good person, and he was a really good person, down to earth, and basically they get to start immediately see love in the air. However, thanks to Rita's influence and dark magic, he is corrupted by evil, and he's kind of bullied to her because she doesn't realize that he's the evil Green Ranger at the time. Now, once that spell's broken, the two start to get closer after he joins the team, and, it's very interesting. Both on and off the battlefield, they have this flirting mentality. Now, most of it is off the battlefield because, well, they didn't want to do too much in the suits. Now, they go on dates several times, fighting side by side, offering emotional support when needed, and encouraging the other to take the next big step for them, never holding the other one back at all. Because several different times, she could have left to win this event and travel the world. There was for Tommy, he could have won these celebrity competition, the next big person to do this martial art contest. There were different back in times where it caused them to leave. Now, they would go through the entire series of Mighty Morphin as a power couple, even when after she left the series to basically go to be with her mother and the like. Now, they would still stay a long distance relationship and be the introduction of this new character, Kat, which was in the 3rd series of Mighty Morphin. Now, as time went on, in Zeo, he gets a letter. And this is why it's not the biggest power couple of number 1. Now, in that letter that he gets, it's a Dear John letter. If you don't know what a Dear John letter is, essentially a breakup letter or they did them a lot in World War II where like, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm going to tell you in this fashion of I accidentally wrote you something else. Dear John, I don't know how to tell Tommy, but I found somebody else in Florida. That's basically what she writes. And this devastates us as going, what the heck did she do? She went to Florida and found her next man, and it wasn't me. I was in Florida this entire time. What the heck? Sorry, this is about Tommy. The heartbreak, he's broken up, but he eventually finds a new relationship with none other than Kat, the next predecessor of Kimberly and Hart as the Pink Ranger, and they decide to pick up the pieces of Tommy's broken heart, because she smashed it with the Dear John letter instead of just calling him on the phone or flying back to meet him for this whole thing. But, at least it wasn't a text. Number 1. Now, number 1 for me choosing was kind of the most simplest for me to do, and that was Wes and Jen Scott's. Now, everybody, I put out that post and stuff like that, and people were going, Wes and Jen, and I had to agree with them 100%. I knew that Tommy was going to be in the top 5 with Kimberly, but in truth, that Dear John letter really threw me off, so I knew what number 1 was going to be. I didn't know where Tommy was. I figured number 2, but there was a lot of guesstimates on who the other one's going to be. But definitely, right here and then, Wes and Jen were going to be number 1 of the best power couple in Power Rangers to date. And it probably will be of all time, especially since they have the ability to time travel. Now, let's go into how these two met. Jen is from the future, the year 3001. And after watching her fiance get murdered, Alex, by Rancic, her and her teammates travel back in time to chase after Rancic and find a genetic duplicate of none other than Wes, who is basically looks like her fiance. Awkward, and unlocks their morphing powers. Now they have to make him a ranger, but she quickly goes, "You can't be a ranger," and basically takes that after them because it's really awkward for her. A few days ago, her fiance was just murdered by this monster that they're on the hunt for, and they have a quick clashing of heads. They do not start on good terms at all. She's bitter, she's dealing with loss, all 9 stages in a matter of moments, and she's using a lot of those stages to beat the crap out of monsters. That's her main focus. I'm just gonna focus on my rage into hitting monsters. However, as time goes on and their personalities clashing, they start to open up to each other. They come to respect one another. They come to trust each other. And even at the point of Jen kind of is unsure who she really loves. Now, things become more awkward right when she's starting to get closer and closer to Wes, she realizes that there's a new Alex in town. Yes, her fiance, who is basically mysteriously revived, quote unquote, was just basically another duplicate, another time change anomaly, essentially. And it quickly becomes a soap story of all soap stories. And if you don't know, that's soap opera. It's almost like a telenovela at one point. But hey, we're not going to talk about that too much. And overall, thinking back about it, meeting this new Alex, who is her quote-unquote old Alex, but not, she quickly realizes that she likes Wes more than she likes this very serious Alex. And, they have to go back to their original time periods, and she leaves him with the tearful goodbyes and confessions of their love for each other that, really didn't need to be said in truth, and they separate. Now, they're the only other couple to get a return in the next series of Power Rangers, and that would be in Power Rangers Wild Force. Now, they would get to meet each other again, and Wes is super happy to see her. Now, when she returns, she's been in the past for a little bit, not saying anybody, but she's been focused on her job. Probably also not wanting to see him again if she didn't have to, because that's a lot of emotion she would have to unbag and deal with. Now, once it's basically revealed that she is back and they're in the same time period and they meet up, they quickly hug and kiss and show off and have a nice little picnic dinner with the rest of their friends. But even with her former fiance's murderer, that's weird. Yeah, that's a little weird. But the emotional trauma of it all is all gone. However, she does have to return, and Wes has to go back to his normal life. It's kind of upsetting there is not more to this power couple, but good God, there was just so much emotional drama going on, and they had to deal with all 9 stages of grief there with him being just a lovable rich boy who wasn't willing to look for his father's money. He was going I'll live in this empty clock tower that's all dusty and stuff with you guys and help you guys repair it, because you know what, you're doing the right thing, I want to do the right thing, and I want to do something more with my life, and also because I kind of like Jen. There you go, guys. That is our power couple top 5 right there. Now, there are a few honorable mentions right now. There is Mike and Emily from Power Rangers Samurai. I personally like the one of Jake and Gia. Now, that one was funny, and there wasn't a really big romance between them, mainly Jake fawning after her and the like. My favorite episode in that, though, is when there was a swap of bodies between Jake and Noah, but when Jake was in Noah's body and Noah was in Jake's body, and Noah gives some hard corny explanation to Gia. It was really super smart about stuff, and Gia just kind of looks at him and is like, "That's super smart," and kind of plays with him playfully, and then realizes that it's Noah and not Jake, and she feels super awkward, but it goes over Noah's head. That's the best part of the entire romance I saw between them, but that's a little shout out there. So those are those are the top 5, and also what I would give the best overall couples of Power Rangers. Let me know if that's what you guys think. There's any other issues. I looked at multiple different charts, had to go do my research and figure out all the different power couples and the like. And there was some good ones. There was also Calvin Maxwell and Haley Foster from Power Rangers Ninja Steel. But I felt that they were a couple the entire time. They were the only couple to start as a couple and remain as a couple the entire series. But there wasn't too many conflicts, and there wasn't so much of a huge love interest there, so I didn't feel like it should be necessary compared to all the other big emotional bombshells of the other power couples there. So thank you guys so much for following me. Have a good Valentine's Day, or a good Signal Awareness Day, as I call it, because, it's another Valentine's Day alone. Woo! And thank you guys. Have a good one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and may the power protect you always.